Good evening, everyone. I just want to thank you all for joining us for our last webinar of the school year on restorative justice implementation, growing restorative champions in middle school. I'm really excited about the webinar today, and we'll go into what we're going to cover in a minute. But first, we have an opening from one of our students at Skinner.
You can only start where you are. Mistakes are water. Grow your lessons from them. By Alexandra L.
Thank you. So today's webinar, we're going to really be talking about how Skinner Middle School in Denver, Colorado started its first Restorative Justice League, a way to really allow for young people to have leadership positions with regard to restorative justice in the middle school. Again, this webinar is being brought to you by the Restorative Justice Partnership, or a coalition of 5 organizations: the National Education Association, Denver Classroom Teachers Association, Padres y Jóvenes Unidos, Denver Public Schools, and Advancement Project. This webinar is being recorded, and so we are going to go through the webinar, and then at the end, we will have time for questions. Unfortunately, if you're calling in, I'm not able to see you, but if you are online, then you can type in your question in the question box, or if you're calling in, you can send me an email, and I can ask your question online that way. My email address is dnicole@advancementproject.org. It's also the email address that you would have received when you registered for the webinar. And so with that, I will turn it over to Lindsay Lee, who is our project manager for the Restorative Justice Partnership, and Allison Horton, who is the Restorative Practice Coordinator at Skinner Middle School.
Thanks, Duana. So as Duana said, I'm Lindsay Lee. I'm the project manager for the Restorative Justice Partnership. And we're also joined by 4 members of Skinner's Restorative Justice League who are going to introduce themselves before they present their slides. Oh, there we go. On this webinar, we're going to discuss the elements that made Skinner's Restorative Justice League possible and successful in its first year. Allison and I are going to provide information about the groundwork that we laid to support a strong foundation for our young people to lead the way and create a truly youth-led restorative program at the middle school level. After we take you through how RJL came together, we are going to turn it over to the RJL members themselves to talk about what we do, what we've learned, what we wish we'd known, and the secrets to RJL. After they finish their presentations, which they have prepared themselves, we're going to open it up to questions. So on that note, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Allison Horton to take us through the recruitment and application process.
Good afternoon. Again, I'm Allison Horton. I've been a restorative practices coordinator here at Skinner Middle School in Denver, Colorado for the last 5 years. I'm originally from Memphis, Tennessee. And so the recruitment for RJL, this was kind of a brainchild our school had. We're seen as a leader of restorative work, but we knew we were missing a lot by not having student-led restorative practices. So this was kind of on our wish list for a long time, but we couldn't figure out how to get it off the ground and make it work in our school building. And so the big kind of thing that changed in our minds to make it happen was collaborating with Lindsay Lee and a district partner, Allison Meyer, of coming up with the idea to have training before the students start their school year. And so we'll be talking about training in a little bit, but that was kind of what helped us get to a place where we were ready to recruit, is having the students be able to be trained before the school year started so that we knew our weekly meetings wouldn't have to all be training throughout the school year. So about recruitment, in order to ensure that interested and qualified students were recruited for RJL, we created a pretty thorough application process. So last year, again, once we had figured out how we wanted to frame the club, I made presentations to the 6th and 7th grade level meetings that we had at the end of our second semester. So we have something called family meeting, which is grade levels coming all together to have celebrations and announcements. And so I announced that this club would be would be in existence next year, and kind of talked about what that might look like, and then told them about the application process. It was pretty vague because we knew it was going to be a student-led organization, and so we wanted our mantra and what we were going to really make the club to be coming from the students. But I talked about restorative practices, and the interest of helping others in our community would be good interest for a student to have if they wanted to apply. And so we made the applications available to all students. The paper applications, they were placed outside of my office, so any interested student could pick it up at any time during the day. And then students were given 2 weeks to complete all the steps in the application process. We believe self-selection is crucial to make sure that students who want to and are interested in a leadership role and restorative practices and building community are really seeking out these steps to become members of RJL. And so a little bit about the application process. Our favorite quote from that was actually taken from one of the applications of a student that will be speaking later. She said, "I would like to join the Restorative Justice League because I know how it feels when you have nobody to talk to, and I would like to support others. It sounds fun, and I like to make others' day positive and happy." So those kind of responses that we knew that student would be a perfect fit. And so the application process consisted of essay questions, a teacher recommendation form, and a brief interview. We wanted to have a teacher recommendation as part of the application since we wouldn't necessarily know every student who applied. A teacher recommendation is important to allow the student to choose the adult most qualified to speak to their strengths and abilities as they relate to restorative practices and peer leadership. We wouldn't say the teacher recommendation is determinative. However, it does provide a critical lens to help evaluate the student's self-assessment and guarantees that the student has at least one positive adult relationship in the building. The essay questions are helpful to gain a sense of why the student wanted to apply to RJL and what their understanding and knowledge of restorative practices is coming in. Not all students who apply have been through a formal restorative process while they were at Skinner, though we did want them to have some knowledge about what restorative culture of a school consists of. The questions are aimed at sparking self-reflection and encouraging the student to think about how being part of RJL can benefit them individually, now and then also in their future, as well as the larger community. Much of the work of RJL during the school year is driven by the ideas and interests of the members. The questions asked during the application process can encourage the student to begin thinking along these lines. The interview portion of the application is definitely the least significant. If a student has chosen to apply, completed the essay questions, and got their teacher recommendation, chances are they'll be an excellent fit for RJL. The interview is meant as a less formal avenue to have a conversation about what participating in RJL will involve and start building those relationships between the students and the staff. It also gives the student a chance to express what they are hoping to learn from the experience in order for facilitators to make sure that the training will meet their needs and tailor the content if necessary. It also gave us a chance to ask them if they would be able to meet the requirements of coming to our 3-day training that was going to happen before school and also our weekly meetings, because we know attendance is crucial to having a successful student-led club, and we wanted to make sure that the students applying would be able to live up to that.
All right, so now I'm going to talk us through the training process. So young people accepted into RJL were asked to commit to 3 days of training prior to the school year beginning. This format was chosen in order to provide the young people with the skills they would need to hit the ground running when the school year began and free up the weekly meetings to focus on practice and processing events as they occur. Breakfast and lunch were provided every day, which is super important, as they're going to tell you later. And that was obtained with funding through an attendance fund that was administered by the school social worker. So day one of the training focused on learning about restorative circles and the community building and preventive aspects of restorative practices. This was meant to be an introduction to the elements of a circle and a chance to practice leading a circle, but it is not equivalent to the 4-day circle keeper training that many of us have participated in. Our young people use the language of circles and circle keeping, but we want to make that distinction clear. It's also important to note that our JL members always co-facilitate circles with a trained circle keeper. So participants are introduced to each element of a circle while at the same time experiencing a circle from beginning to end over the course of the day. Interspersed throughout the training are many icebreakers and games. These breaks are necessary to keep our young people engaged and also incredibly effective at building relationship among the group. This day of training also encourages the young people to begin imagining themselves in the role of circle leader and thinking about ways they can use what they're learning throughout the school day. Beginning on the second day, the training incorporates elements of youth leadership, and at the end of the day, participants are asked to sign up to lead different elements of the training over the following 2 days. So the second day of training is a deeper dive into the specific skills the young people will be expected to use when they're serving in their role as Restorative Justice League member. Participants are encouraged to examine why restorative practices are important, how they work, and what aspects of an individual's personality and actions contribute to whether they are functioning restoratively. So participants get an introduction to the social discipline window, jackal and giraffe language or nonviolent communication, the restorative questions, and then are given time to practice and engage with each of these skills. At the end of the day, several of the young people are given the opportunity to lead an element of the circle, and the circle frames the content of the training, both as we enter in and then exit the day. So the third day of training builds on the preceding 2 days and focuses on planning for the school year. It provides multiple opportunities for the participants to practice the skills they've learned. Highlights of that day included the creation of our Restorative Justice League pledge and role-playing situations in which our JL members might find themselves expected to respond throughout their school days. The bulk of the content for this day is student-generated, and it's meant to signify a shift away from adult ownership of the content and processes. As youth leadership really is the goal of our JL, it's crucial to empower young people as much as possible, as early as possible. So now I'm going to talk us through kind of the structure. The quote you see here actually came out of one of the circles that we held during one of our weekly meetings. When you share your feelings, they're not bottled up as much, and the problem nearly resolves itself, which I thought was just a great way to encapsulate what we're trying to do. So before the school year starts, we wanted to make sure every young person had enough training in restorative practices to set them up for success in their role as a member of our JL. So the 3 days of training that I just described were provided 2 weeks before the official first day of school, after some staff had already returned to work, and we did it concurrently with 6th grade academy, which is when all of the new 6th graders come to just get a sense of what it's like being in the building. The commitment to attend the full training is confirmed with young people and their parents before the end of the previous school year. These days are essential to establishing a restorative culture within the group, beginning to cultivate internal relationships, and preparing the young people to lead community building work that occurs primarily in the early weeks of the school year. So included in the training schedule was time to establish a physical presence in the school building for our JL. At Skinner, there's a bulletin board in the main hallway on the first floor, which is dedicated to restorative practices. Half of that board was turned over to our JL, and each member is represented with a picture in their superhero pose of choice, which everyone was very excited about during training, and a short bio in which they complete the following sentence stems. My name is, I'm in blank grade, my superhero name is, my superpower is, and you should come talk to me if. So the goal of this visibility is to help the rest of the student population identify our JL members and feel comfortable reaching out to them when they need help. RJL members were also given shirts and rubber bracelets to help with group identity and prominence. After going through the 3 days of training, the young people opted to become involved in welcoming new students to the school. During the last day of training, they decided to hold welcome circles for new 7th and 8th grade students. The lower number of new students in these grades made it possible for us to reach everyone in a single circle. And then they decided to distribute candy to the new 6th grade class during their lunch period as a way of just getting to know everybody. These activities were made possible because the official first day of school at Skinner is dedicated to acclimating new students, and RJL members were given the opportunity to volunteer for community service credit. During the school year, there are 2 primary points of contact for RJL members. They're part of the same learning family or advisory, and there's a weekly after-school meeting. The weekly meetings occur for an hour, 1 day a week after school. This time is dedicated to additional training, practice, and community building. It also allows for an extended period in which members can share their experiences and get assistance with situations that may have occurred throughout the week. These meetings serve as a time to plan for participation in school activities and explore creative ways to engage the larger community in the restorative culture. At the beginning of the year, we designed a monthly outline of what these meetings would look like. Week 1 was supposed to be a general check-in. Week 2, additional training. Week 3, planning for the monthly restorative challenges the young people present to the entire school. And week 4 was left as a wild card to account for any events that might pop up and need to be planned for. We learned early on that this outline would often need to be thrown out due to increasing demand for RJL to participate in events and plan circles in response to teacher requests. Here we learned that flexibility is key and that young people leading restorative work makes a huge impact on the larger school culture. Additionally, members agree to be part of a learning family or advisory led by the Restorative Practices Coordinator, Ms. Horton, who you heard from earlier. The learning family meets for 15 minutes every morning and is the first touch point of the day. The learning family is designed to build relationship with a smaller group of students and is a place for school business and other tasks to be completed daily. The learning family piece of RJL provides an opportunity for members to stay connected to the dedicated restorative staff, to each other more frequently than once a week, and to check in about any conflicts or other issues that might arise between weekly meetings. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Emma, who's going to explain what we do.
I'm Emma Rodriguez. I am in 8th grade, and the first thing I am going to talk to you about is what we do in RJL. This is a list of typical tasks and responsibilities we have built up to over our 8 months as a club. The slogan we came up with for RJL is community is priority. So the first thing we want to talk to you about is how we help our school community. We do this in a lot of ways, like helping students solve their conflicts with other students by leading restorative conversations. Another big role we have in RJL is being circle keepers. This school year, we have facilitated different types of circles. At first, most requests were from teachers who wanted a classroom recess circle. So we facilitated several circles to help different classrooms come up with solutions to problems happening in class. Then in December, we actually were talking about goals each of us wanted to set for second semester. A lot of us were talking about goals. A lot of us said that we wanted to lead more community building circles instead of classroom recess circles. Mr. Ventresca and Ms. Horton brought that back to staff and offered teachers that RJL could come to their classroom and keep circle for community building. We had lots of requests from teachers, so we pre-conferenced with them and led circles in math classes, art classes, Spanish classes, and more, with the whole focus of the circle being to create a safe space where their classmates could get to know each other. We've also led some pretty serious circles this year. Kobe and I were circle keepers for a social studies class that was racially biased towards each other and didn't respect anything each other would say or do. There were 2 main students at the center of the conflict, but a lot of kids in the class were affected by the problem. They felt hurt and that there was some real harm being done. Their circle required a lot of pre-conferencing work. We had to have meetings with the kids to make sure if they were prepared to speak their truths in a respectful way during circle. In these meetings, we discussed what we should address in the circle and how to repair the harm. During the actual circle, all students did a great job being respectful, speaking their truths and listening with open ears. Emotions were still high after the circle with the two main students, so our dean, Miss Hale, conducted a smaller follow-up circle the next day. Currently, the two students haven't had any future conflicts in class or at school, and there is a peaceful agreement between them that has lasted. Another thing we do in RJL is we challenge the school each month to complete the RJL challenge. We present these challenges during our monthly family meetings, which are grade level meetings where students get shout outs, receive attendance awards, and also see us present the challenge for the month. One example of an RJL challenge we created was for December. We challenged each learning family to submit a verse of a community carol. We had 13 submissions that we edited together to make Skinner's community carol that we then asked a staff member to sing and record so we could share at January's family meeting. We like to challenge our peers and staff here at Skinner to be more restorative. We believe this helps spread kindness throughout our building. Actually, our very first RJL challenge was called Leaf of Kindness. Each member had a laminated leaf of kindness that we passed along to someone in the school we saw being kind to someone else. Then they passed the leaf of kindness to someone they saw being kind. The leaf got passed along throughout the month of September. Then during our October family meeting, we had everyone stand who received a leaf at some point during the month. It was awesome to see so many people stand who had spread kindness throughout our school. We have participated in community events like the North High School Homecoming Parade, and we have raised money for our club by participating in fundraisers like Skinner's Fall Festival, where we ran a photo booth stall, even participating in the Jewels of Highlands home tour. We welcome new students and teachers to our community so everyone feels comfortable and a part of our Skinner family. One of our first tasks as RJL was to welcome new 7th and 8th graders to our school and introduce ourselves to the 6th graders. We did this by leading welcoming circles and going to lunches to introduce ourselves. We also want to make sure our impact goes beyond our individual time in RJL. That is why we also create useful tools for other people who want to use restorative practices in the community. We have worked on starting a menu of repair, and our biggest tool we created was making a Circle 101 video for DPS. We came in on a Saturday to model a circle and explain each element so people in other schools can learn how to keep circle. We continue to build our confidence in and outside of our time together as a club. We are always striving to be our best selves and spread restorative school culture.
My name is Ryan and I'm in 6th grade and I'm going to be telling you about what we've learned. During our training, we taught the 4 restorative practices questions. What happened, who was affected, and how? What can you take your responsibility for? How can we make things right? We use these questions all the time when we are helping our peers with a conflict. I use this question to help guide conversations with other 6th graders when I see them in the hallway upset or outside at recess if someone is mad. For our first year as a club, we had all sorts of things pop up that we needed to work together to solve the problem. The biggest problem one is having enough time to accomplish everything we want to do. We only meet once a week for an hour, so we have to stay on track to get everything done. We also have 4 different ways to make money so we can fund all of our ideas as well. We went through hours of circle training at the beginning of the school year and then again after winter break so we can be the best circle keepers there is in the business. Through learning about each element of Peace Circle, we have grown the confidence to not only lead a circle, but also create our own elements. My team member created the icebreaker piece that we play this morning after learning what an icebreaker is and its purpose in the circle. Many of the members have also created our own readings. We have been able to use it with a significant training and practice in circle keeping. Miss Lindsay taught us the difference between jackal and draft language and how we can help someone get from jackal to draft. Jackal language is someone who is looking for an immediate needs and has a fixed mindset or a closed mind. It is the language of judgment, blame, and demands and how we normally communicate with each other. We want to aim for draft language because drafts are able to look into the future. Draft is a language of the heart and uses requests instead of demands. Using draft language has 4 parts: observation, feelings, needs, and requests. I joined RJL in December. we had RJL training, and that's when I noticed a lot of time was spent doing different get to know you activities. There are lots of fun, plus it helped us realize how important it was for us to spend time getting to know each other and why it's important we create those spaces for each other. Through practice and preparation, we have learned how to get better public speakers. Before we presented our first RJL challenge, we went to the Skinner Auditorium and we practiced exactly what we were going to say, how we would sit and how order we would go in. When we filmed our circle training video, we wrote our own scripts and practice so that we wouldn't be nervous in the moment. It can be intimidating to talk to in front of your peers or in front of adults we don't know. Different RJL members have different levels of comfort with public speaking. But the practice and tips we give each other helps us grow in this skill. RJL is a student-led and we are just for our first year as a club, which means everything we want to do, we have to come up with from scratch. This is a lot of work, but it also gives us a way to be creative. We have a lot of opportunities to contribute to our original thoughts and ideas, from monthly RJL challenge brainstorm sessions to coming up with our own mandatory community is priority. We came together to create RJL to the pledge so we are all on the same page for what it means to be an RJL member.
I'm Rachel. When I applied for RJL, it was pretty vague what the club was going to be all about. I'm going to be honest. When I signed up for RJL, I did not know that I would miss so much class time in order to keep circles, to lead monthly challenges, or to talk to visitors that come to our school to see how we restore it. It can be really difficult to miss class and then have work to make up. But it's become an expectation we have for ourselves now. If we stand up on our academics, we are able to help out with more RJL activities. I also didn't know I would make so much new friends by joining RJL. The friends I've made through RJL have been important because they can help me get through tough days, and we become a team when we are keeping circles. One of the most important things I wish I would have known is to not have expectations or make assumptions when it comes to RJL. We have made mistakes this year, but that's okay. We've always come together to work as a family and do our best. Even if a challenge or circle doesn't go well, we don't get stuck in feeling disappointed or let down. We keep working and learning. Being an RJL member means that first of all, you have to have courage in everything you do. You need to be able to push yourself out of the comfort zone to talk to people you don't know in order to help them and our community. Not all of us came into RJL having that courage, but through getting to know each other on a really close level and working together to shape what we do as RJL has helped us be brave and support our school community with courage. We want to make the world a better place, and being part of RJL is a start to that goal. I joined RJL first semester, and what I realized is that RJL is made up of really kind people and personalities that make it easy not to be shy. My RJL family has made it easy to find my inner courage and be able to help each other. When I joined RJL, I had no idea there would be so much public speaking. Public speaking is hard for me since I'm a shy person. If I would have known how much public speaking I would be challenged to do, I might have never joined RJL, but it's helped me get over my fear of public speaking little by little. For example, I'm talking to so many of you this afternoon. But in all seriousness, when I'm a circle keeper for a big class with 25 or more students, I get nervous and things don't always go as planned. But what I've learned is that in the end, everything works out and I try to stay positive. As a club, we talk about circles that don't go as smoothly and always try to tweak things so we are continuing to grow as circle keepers. Not every circle will be a huge success, and that's okay because at least the community came together and spent time together and introduced a new way to talking to one another.
Okay.
So, my name is Skylar, and I'm going to talk about the secrets to RJL, because it's not that easy. For every circle, we have our trusted circle outline planning sheet. It has every step to the circle listed, including icebreakers and notes for circle keepers. This sheet helps us when we are planning circles with teachers, students, or the RPCs. This way, we have a clear plan for the circle, and we understand what step is next. It helps us be prepared, and it helps us jump into any restorative work like a pro. It may seem simple, but food is really important when you have a student-led club. Whenever we don't have snacks for our weekly meetings, you can tell we are more tired, hangry, and less efficient. However, when we do have snacks, our spirits are high, and it creates a space where we bond and socialize with one each other and keeps our RJ family connection strong. So once Mr. Horn, Mr. Ventresca and Ms. Horn facilitate a lot of restorative conversations with students, but what we know is that sometimes their message goes in a student's ear and goes out the other side. This is why they will call one of us to help support a restorative conversation. Over this year, we have found out that kids will listen to kids. Towards the beginning of year, in one of my yearbook classes, there were a group of kids playing a game where they would echo different words back and forth. It would start with saying the word heck and stuff and simple stuff like that, but it would escalate to homophobic and transphobic slurs. I'm transgender, and I just couldn't sit there and listen to slurs being yelled out. I went to Miss Horton, and together we pulled the kids from the class and led a restorative conversation. I shared my experience with hate speech and how it's affected me and friends in my community, and we had a respectable conversation, and the boys listened and they understood, and then we all decided collectively that I should make an announcement to the class, and ever since, I have not heard any slurs in that class, which is great. Though Ms. Horn is really good at her job, it is more impactful for students to hear from their peers why something is not okay. It is important to us that we keep on track of what works and doesn't work, and we experiment with new icebreakers, reading prompts, and styles of circles. Having flexibility and always pushing ourselves to keep working on our skills is really important this year. Over our school year, we have done a lot of work. We've also had a lot of fun. One of my favorite memories was when we had a secret Santa party before winter break. It was fun guessing who gave us what gift. Another one of my favorite memories during the year is that when we were filming the video for DPS, we came to school on a Saturday, and when we weren't filming, we would take turns in the auditorium playing hide and seek. It built our bond, and it allowed us to become more than just RJL. We became a group of friends, and we could do better restorative work with each other.
Great job, everybody. So,
all right.
Sorry, Tawana.
Go ahead, Lindsay. No, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say that was the end of what we prepared to say. So now we're all ready to answer whatever questions people have.
Thank you all so much. So informative. So the way this works again is if you are online on your computer and you have a question, you can type it into the question box. If you are not online, if you're calling in, then you can send me an email or you can send me a text, and then that way I can ask your question to the group. And so the question can be for any of the young people, or it can be for Lindsay or Allison. So our first question, so although the webinar says it's for building restorative champions in middle school, is this something that could be adapted to the elementary or high school level? And if so, can you let us know how?
Yeah, I think that, so I've seen a lot of different models of peer leadership at different schools here in Denver, but I think that what we kind of hit on a lot is that the training piece before the school year starting, and then having a touch point every day in the morning and weekly meetings, like those three things I think are the most effective to make sure that the young people who are participating are able to have the knowledge and the resources they need to, again, to hit the ground running. So I've seen models where it's more of a restorative class where it can take up to a semester to get everyone trained, even to the same level that these young people were on the first day of school. And then I've also seen kind of more informal circle clubs at the elementary school level, where it's just kind of community building and getting to know each other. So I think that absolutely, if you taking those three elements, you can adapt this from elementary to high school. And I think even in high school, it could be in addition to a class, having different avenues to make sure that the students that we're educating at the middle school level are able to be captured at the high school level, where they might not want to be a part of like a whole class or anything like that. So yeah, I think absolutely this model could be adapted really to any grade. Anybody else?
Yeah, young people, would y'all have liked to see something like this in your elementary, or we have 3 8th graders, are you hoping to see this kind of club or presence in your high school? What would you say?
I'm hoping to see this in my high school, because like when you're stepping into like high school, I don't know, like if it's just me, but like it seems like your attitude changes a lot, and like you're just like nervous to go into high school. So like you think like, oh, like I don't want to be here because I'm too scared, and then like that's when you like get an attitude, and then like you start changing and stuff like that. So yeah, it would really help a lot.
Nice. Good.
I don't got an answer.
Well, I just came from elementary school, and to be honest, I don't know if I don't know if it would be the best fit for elementary school, because there's little kids and then there's other kids that are just like wanting to get to middle school. So I feel like it's a really big responsibility, and people are still learning what responsibility means in their school. So maybe like getting into that vibe of what it means, but maybe not exactly a club just yet.
What grade do you think you would need to be in to be able to do RJL well?
I think maybe 3rd grade, maybe not.
So 3rd grade?
Maybe not younger.
Nice.
Thank you all for that. Our next question is, what is the diversity within the school, and is it reflected in the diversity of the Restorative Justice League?
Yeah, Skinner Middle School is still majority Latino. The next largest population is white at Skinner. In our club, we have, how many? I'm trying to break it down female to male. We have 4 male students and 6 female. We are majority Latina. And as Skylar shared, he is transgender, and so we really try to have students of all interests and all backgrounds represented, because we know that oftentimes students respond best to those that they can feel like they can relate to. We were really lucky that the students who applied happened to be from a lot of different backgrounds. That's not something we necessarily went after in recruitment. So we were very lucky in that sense. But I would say our small community of 10 students represents a lot of the students we have as a larger student body at Skinner. We have about 650 students at Skinner Middle School.
And I would just add that it was really important to, as we were creating the founding group of RJL, that we wanted to have students who wouldn't necessarily always get other leadership opportunities to be part of it, and to again be able to reflect different aspects of the student population. So we have students that were introduced to restorative because of conflicts that they had with their peers or with other staff members, and then we do have some RJL members that joined because they wanted that leadership opportunity. But we really wanted it to be a space where students could grow into that role.
I think it's important that we acknowledge that the kids in our jail have lots of like different home lifestyles. Like there are some kids in our jail whose parents are divorced, and like some kids who have like really tight-knit families. So there's just lots of ways they can relate to other kids when they're helping them out.
True that.
A little bit, right?
So our next question, how has, this is for the young people, how has being in Restorative Justice League changed both your life as a student and your personal life, if at all?
It's changed my life as a student because I'm like if I see that my teacher needs help with like a conflict, I'm like there, and like they can always count on me to like solve it. And like I feel like I've gotten more like responsible and like respectful towards like just like teachers in general, and like my attitude like hasn't changed a lot, but like it's like helping me change it. And then what was the other part?
How does it affect your
Personal life.
Oh, again, like I don't know, my attitude's just like getting a lot more better, and I'm like I'm actually wanting to help people instead of just like sitting there and watching them like sort of struggle. I actually like want to see them like succeed in life.
Joining our jail has pushed me to speak in front of large groups of people, which I have a hard time doing.
Were you gonna say something?
Oh yeah. So it's kind of changed my way in the classroom, sort of, because sometimes you mess around with your friends and sometimes, but usually my teachers hold me to a higher standard, so they usually get a little bit more mad at me. They said you're supposed to be the leader, not like the involver. I don't really know. So like I definitely get put on a higher standard now. And then for my personal life, I definitely think it's been good, but like definitely my friends sometimes like think like whenever there's a restorative justice circle, I know all about it, and like that's kind of how it goes. But I'm definitely held to a higher standard of teachers, and sometimes that's kind of hard because I'm still learning. So like it sometimes can be kind of really hard to like be perfect a lot sometimes, because Skinner teachers hold you to a high standard, but then they hold you to an even higher standard when you're in our jail or leadership, like something like that.
True that.
Skylar, how has our jail changed your
Go ahead, Allison, I'm sorry.
We have one more young person that was going to answer the question. Skylar, how has our jail changed your life in your 8th grade year?
Oh boy. At the beginning of the year, as I'm an 8th grader and I'm really exhausted pretty much all the time, at the beginning of the year, I had a pretty negative attitude towards a lot of school and like lots of the people in it, and I was just like, ugh, I'm so exhausted, I just want to get this all over with. And it like reflected in my grades, it reflected in my social life. It was just, I went from being a pretty darn straight A student to having a couple of C's in there and like even a B. And my friends got worried about me, and then the people in our jail were just like, hey man, you gotta chill. It's not this bad. So and I even had a restorative circle with my friends, which was meta, because I never thought it happened to me. So yeah, they gave me a taste of my own medicine. They put me in a restorative circle, and my restorative club was like really reflective, and they were like, with the check-in circles, they were just like you need to get your act together. So, yeah. And now I'm positive. My soul is just sunshine and rainbows.
Thank you, Skylar.
Okay. Have you ever come across staff that did not approve of restorative practices or were resistant to its implementation?
No.
I don't think they've like really look, yeah, they've kind of resisted. So, I'm not gonna name any names, but like sometimes teachers don't really understand that there's more to school than just learning. They think sometimes that it's just going to class and learning and then getting your homework. But sometimes it's different. You need to help people to be able to learn, do their homework, and go to class. So sometimes teachers get a little like upset, triggered. Just gonna say it. They sometimes get triggered by it and they don't really approve exactly of like you leaving class if you're late to class with a note. They sometimes get kind of upset and they feel I don't know this for sure, but I bet they must feel kind of disrespected, like you have something better to do than my class.
Yeah, they don't really like it when you have to miss class time for our JL circles. That's not their favorite thing, but yeah, that's like the only problem that I have with them. They get upset when you miss class.
Yeah, they get upset usually about that a lot.
Like Ryan and Skylar said, like they do get mad that like we've missed class or like that we're late to class because like they feel like we've missed a lot. But I feel like it's also helped them a lot because like sometimes they don't know how to handle situations, and that's when they'll come to one of us and be like, oh, like can we just have a circle to like help our class just like reset? And yeah, there are teachers who come to us and who are like, we need to like, I need to fix my class, not necessarily fix the class, but like just change the vibe in there because like sometimes teacher will get a bad vibe off of the class and they just like need help from us. So it has helped them, but also like they do get mad if we're missing class or we're late.
I would say we're very lucky at Skinner that because we've been doing restorative for 12 years, at this point, a lot of our staff are on board with restorative or they have left. So in terms of like restorative culture, they are pretty open to it. There aren't any huge like naysayers who are just completely against it. Although, as the kids are mentioning, it's not that every teacher is very like ultra restorative at every moment of the day and 100% gung-ho about it. They have also, like, we've been lucky that they've been pretty accepting of our club as we've kind of pushed out. And again, we didn't know what exactly it was going to look like since it's our first year in it. And so, yeah, like the missing class time and all that, we've had to maneuver of noticing students missing a certain class period often, and teachers being like, hey, can you not pull them from my class? So it's all been a huge learning curve, but I do think we are pretty lucky at Skinner in the sense that we have an open-minded staff that is restorative in nature, and if they're not, then they keep pretty quiet because they're in the minority.
And I would also just add that I think we were surprised moving into second semester with some of the staff that might not have been as on board with restorative who were requesting support from our JL to do those classroom reset circles, and using it as a resource to where they might not feel comfortable holding a circle or having those restorative conversations, that they felt like they had a trained pool of young people that they could lean on to be able to do that. So that was something we definitely did not anticipate as we started out, and I think was a welcome shift as we went into second semester.
So this next question is actually about missing classes.
Perfect.
On average, how many classes do you miss in a week? And then what are the expectations to maintain the material that you miss?
On a busy week, I think my record is 6. There's no, like in a month.
So the question is in a week.
Oh, did I say week?
Mm-hmm.
Probably in a week. Like only probably maybe like 1 or 2. Very rarely 3 if the planning sessions take a little long. It's not like harsh on your attendance, but they definitely do expect you to make up that work. There is like a no forgiveness policy at Skinner for missing assignments.
I would say I'm never really missing class. I have a pass. I'm sometimes late when I'm talking to Miss Horton because I usually go at the end of class, so I don't miss stuff, but then sometimes I'm late to the other class, but she fixes my attendance so they know that I'm there. So like I think I'm like late to class once every 2 weeks.
Hi, Chris. This is Donna.
Sorry, we have an announcement overhead that will jump in right after this announcement is done.
Spotlight. I'm sorry.
I feel like for me, it depends because for mine and Kobe's, like the serious circle that we had with like the racially biased kids, like that took a lot of planning. So I missed like my 5th period. Like I went to the first half and then like I missed the last half just because I had to talk to the teacher, and then we talked to the 2 kids, and then we talked to the kids who were affected and like what they were gonna say in the circle and like what we were gonna say in the circle. And I feel like it just depends like on like what the type of circle you have, because like that one took a lot of like time and dedication to think about it.
Yeah, I would agree with Emma. So typically I wouldn't say we have any student do more than 1 circle in a week. Again, when we opened it up to kind of push for community building circles instead of just classroom reset circles, we kind of got more than we could chew, and because we had so much response of wanting that, which was great. But again, we have to balance as the restorative coordinators, making sure we're evening it out among kids. They're not all missing the same period and missing a ton of class. And so I would say typically a student would miss maybe 2 classes a week if they're doing a circle, because they'll miss 1 period for the pre-conference and then 1 to lead it. Again, that's like more of an average, because then you do have the more serious circles that take a lot more pre-conferencing or they need to go back for a follow-up circle, different scenarios. But on average, I would say that. We also don't do circles every week. We kind of get them in big waves where we had a big flux of them when we came back from winter break, and now it's kind of been
Chill.
Yeah, a little more chill, and as the year is winding down, a couple of requests, but not as much. But the monthly meetings, they're missing class time to present the RJL challenge at different grade levels. So there are things that happen on a monthly basis that affect their attendance, but we make sure that it's coded as school business so that teachers know where they are. We'll also give teachers a heads up, like, hey, the student is going to miss. Is that okay? Are they going to miss anything like crucial, a test or anything that they just have to be there for, so that we're maintaining positive relationships with teachers as well.
So Allison, you talked a little bit before in one of the answers about kind of, the journey that Skinner has been on, and because you've been doing this work for a long time, you have a little less resistance. Can you just talk about how not only the teachers but the administration embraces restorative justice, but also do they commit to practice it also?
Absolutely. So Skinner is just kind of a beautiful haven. This is the 2nd school I've worked at in Denver, and I've been very lucky to be in restorative school buildings, but Skinner is really in a league of its own, where they have put their money where their mouth is. So they make sure that we have the restorative practices coordinator position in our budget, so that there is at least 1 staff member who is leading the work, but also just like leading the community aspect. It's everyone's job. So 12 years in, it's not seen that it's only my role to lead the restorative work, that it's really the majority of that work is happening in the classrooms where teachers and students are in community together. So we're lucky to be part of this partnership where we have a second restorative coordinator as well, Mr. Ventresca. And so I think that's a pretty big and crucial part, is the school putting their money where their mouth is budget-wise to make sure that we're being funded for that. And then also allotting time for us to do professional development with the staff, whether it's a PDU, where we're doing a book study on a restorative book. We did one a couple years ago on Better Than Carrots or Sticks, led by our school social worker, Mr. Walden. But then also we start every year with an hour-long session for restorative, where we're building skills, we're talking about things we can work on. I'm hoping that that can also grow into a space that's more student-led and have our students leading those sessions. But I would say overall, we put the time, the money, and then also just constantly going back to, are we being restorative? What can we do better? And not just sitting on this idea that we're seen as a leader in restorative work, but that we're also trying to push and make sure that everything we do is as restorative as possible, which means putting our community and our school community at the top priority.
Great. Can you remind us how many RJL members you have at Skinner, and then are all grade levels represented?
Yeah, so we have 10 members. We started this school year with 7, and we only had 7th and 8th graders because the application was at the end of last year, so the 6th graders wouldn't have known about it. We did trial having another round of applications in the middle of the year at the end of first semester. And that's how we got Ryan and another 6th grade student, and then a new to Skinner 7th grader. They joined us to make it to go from 7 to 10 members. That was moving forward. I think we'll just keep the one time a year of recruitment and not be the end of the school year, because it is a lot of work to put the training together and try to make that happen during winter break. But it did help us have 6th graders for half a year. But so that means for next year, we'll only have 7th and 8th graders in Restorative Justice League.
And this question is for the students. What challenges have you seen as an RJL facilitator with your peers and with adults?
I sometimes notice when I'm leading a circle, and it's if my friends are in that class, they usually sometimes don't take it seriously, and then I'm not embarrassed. I sometimes get in the mood when your friends are there, and then I start laughing. I laugh at everything, by the way. I start laughing sometimes, and then I get off track, and then I get back on track. But sometimes you don't take it seriously. If it's with your good, then they usually don't take it seriously. And then with teachers, sometimes they don't let students really talk a ton. They kind of take it over to let them have their moment to shine, but not let the students have their moment to shine.
Yeah, in the beginning of the year when RJL first started, I feel with students they didn't take it seriously at all, and they just weren't they just thought oh, a student-led club, they're one of us, the same age as me, so why should I care, they're not going to give me good advice or stuff like that. But I feel throughout the year, it we've showed them that we can handle serious situations, and that we do speak words of wisdom sometimes. So then that was an eye opener for all of them, and they all became more serious about it. And sometimes there are people who do come to us and who are oh, I'm having a problem with so and so, and then we help them solve it. Yeah.
At the beginning of the year, there was a little bit of fear in the mentality that sometimes kids thought we were kind of a patrol to catch their problems and report them. So once we explained to them that and they saw that no, we're kind of just restorative coordinators, that's our job, and we're not disciplinary officers. It kind of like let that idea chill, and they didn't hold it against us as often.
Also, I feel like sometimes students might think that since we teachers ask for help, they don't like they go hard on us. Like they might think that we're like teachers' pets a little bit, because like we do talk to people. We don't act like teachers' pets, but they might think that, like especially in the circles, like you got the teacher, you're agreeing with what they're saying, so it kind of seems like trying to get on the good side of the teacher and not the students.
Hey, this is another question for the students. If you could give the people on this call, the adults mainly on this call, one reason to have a Restorative Justice League in their school, what would it be?
Please do it.
One reason.
It helps so many kids come out of their comfort zone. It gives so many kids chances they otherwise wouldn't have as an adult, and it would help lots of kids learn and grow.
Like Skylar said, it would help them become more confident, and it just kind of changes their personality and changes the people they're around, and it kind of just makes the community better in general.
Yeah, like Skylar said, like it helps the students mature more and like they know how to handle situations. So like do it so that way it can help the students mature and not grow quickly, but like have a good mindset about like things.
And this is another question for the students. How do you all address confidentiality, especially if your friends are trying to figure out what happened in the circles that you're keeping?
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
Sure. How do you all address confidentialities, not sharing, things that you may hear in circle, especially if your friends are asking you about what may have happened?
We just, we're kind of like the only kids who know about circles that happen outside of different classes, and we're pretty good at like just not telling people about them, because we're usually like really like busy thinking about the circle and like thinking about what we should do, we're just so busy just thinking about it and doing it that other kids don't really hear about it or like ask questions about it. But mainly I think we're all pretty good at following the rules of just like trust other people's trust in you, and just don't share anything that you don't think everyone should know. Anybody else?
There are times when my friends will ask me like, what were you doing? And then I'll tell them like I was in a circle, and then like they'll ask me what it was about, and like there are times where I will like become like sassy and I'll be like, well, it's none of your business. But like I'll catch myself and I'll be like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. And then like I'll tell them like I don't think it's my place to like tell everyone like the class's issues, because like you can get embarrassed like pretty quickly, and like I tell them like what if you were in that situation, and what if I told everyone your business and like how you were being disrespectful, then you would feel embarrassed for yourself, and like I don't want to put anyone in that position of feeling embarrassed.
Okay, that is it for our questions, unless we get another one. Do you all have any parting words that you would like to give the folks on the phone?
Yeah, before I read the closing, I would like them to know if they're considering having their own RGLs, I think it's really important that you make sure, like I can't emphasize this enough, make sure your students are like you guys go through necessary steps to become friends in a community, so y'all can support. Oh my gosh, sorry. So y'all can support each other and be friends and endure all of these sometimes hard experiences with each other and support each other. Like one time after, I don't know if this was after the filming, sometime during filming the video for DPS, we went out for lunch with the money that some of our students raised together at fundraisers, and it was really fun. We had a really good time, and I learned a lot about my friends, and like making sure everyone has like bonds with each other, positive bonds. It will really help not just your club, but people who are affected by your club.
I would also just add, never underestimate your young people. These founding RJL members have stepped up to every single challenge that we have put in front of them this year, including this right now, speaking on a webinar. They also last week presented in front of about 45 restorative practice coordinators for the district with some of the same material. And I have just over and over again been blown away by their commitment and just how they've taken on this role and made RJL into something that I know Ms. Horton and I had no idea what it was going to be. So just never underestimate where this can go and the power of the young people that are part of your organization.
Yeah, and with that said, I would say as an adult leader helping the students rise to the occasion, it has been super helpful for me to have like thought partners with Miss Lindsay and our other restorative coordinator to kind of make sure that we're doing everything we can to set them up for success and to make sure that we're providing the right kind of structure where they can really shine and their thoughts and ideas can be shared, and then we can make it a reality. I would also say when you're putting together students that are interested, I keep using the word lucky, I'm trying, but I do feel like we just were really lucky and blessed that the students that we had join, 2 of them were friends prior, but for the most part, out of the original 7, they didn't really know each other that well, and that really helped us come together because it was like very much breakfast club style, where they were coming together, getting trained, we're all kind of jumping in it together and learning about each other as we started. So it wasn't ever very like cliquey or anything like that because they just didn't really know each other yet. But then the amount they knew each other grew extremely fast because we did have those 12 hours of training right before the school year started. And so the bonds were happening immediately. So have thought partners, and then also be mindful of friend groups when recruiting so that you don't have cliques within your club.
Any other last words?
No. Don't forget snacks.
Don't forget snacks. We can go out on that.
Wait, no, we gotta do a closing.
Yes, we do need to do the closing. Duan, are we ready for that?
We are ready for the closing.
Okay, I'm going to read an excerpt from Good Morning, Good Night, a poetry book by Lin-Manuel Miranda. Good night, you are so loved and we like having you around. Ties one end of this sentence to your heart, the other end to everyone who loves you in this life, even if clouds obscure your view. Checks knots. There, stay put you. Tug if you need anything. By Lin-Manuel Miranda.
So I just want to thank all of you. Got lots of applause and emails already. This may have been the most fun webinar that we've had this year. We ended on a bang. We will send out a recording of the webinar to everyone who is on today. And in June, you want to tell us what's being released in June, Lindsay?
Oh, yes. So we have been working on a toolkit for basically all of the steps that we went over in this webinar, and then some additional things around fundraising and some of the successes and data that we've been collecting. And that is going to be designed and published to coincide with the national conference in June. And I am so excited to get that out into the world in the next couple months. So look out for that as well. Oh, and it also includes links to the actual application that we used, the training curriculum, all the different the pieces that we actually produce to make all this happen. All that is included in the document. So
Y'all made a book?
yeah, there's going to be a book.
Dang.
So if you'll be in Denver in June, come out. You can meet these young people at the conference. And if not, we will certainly distribute copies of the report and toolkit afterwards. So I just want to thank everyone for joining us. Thank all of you for participating in the webinar, for taking the time out and really being with us this school year. We will post this webinar on our website where you can find a copy of all of our previous webinars, and that website is rjpartnership.org. This is Dewan and Nicole, and I just want to thank you again. Thank you, Lindsay, Allison, all of you young people, Emma, Ryan, Skylar, for joining us this evening and for all the really hard work you put into this presentation. I really appreciate it.
Richie too.
And so with that, we'll just let everyone go. Good night. Everyone have a great evening.
Good night.
Good night. Bye. Thank you.
Let me know when they hang up.